Ask your average moviegoer why they visit the cinema and they'll probably tell you it's either because they want to be entertained or because they want to have their eyes opened by the infinite possibilities of the moving image or simply to watch Danny Glover tell you he's too old for this shit. They probably won't say it's because they want to have their minds turned into absolute jelly by confusing plots, obtuse imagery, or scenes that make your reality go a little bit wibbly. But there are some movies out there that just didn't get the memo. Films which are intentionally confusing, pieces that aren't meant to be understood in a traditional sense. And you know what? For creating a mood or an atmosphere within the audience, the films on this list are quite brilliant. So don't sit back, don't relax, and for the love of God, don't do yourself a damage, and let's take a walk through the mental minefield together. With this in mind, I'm Jules the Ego to your id, and these are 10 movies that were designed to mess with your head. Number 10. Inception. We'll start with baby steps, as this is the least confusing film on this list. As action movies go, Inception is certainly a thinker, but there really isn't a whole lot to air quotes get about Christopher Nolan's dream-hopping epic. That said, it was absolutely constructed with the intent to screw with your mind. The movie darts back and forth between different dreamscapes wherein time slows down and the laws of physics no longer apply. Anti-gravity, kung fu and city warping aside, it's Inception's final scene that really knocked us for a loop. All this time we'd figured Cobb was back safe and sound with his children and was going to live out the rest of his life as a free man. But his supposed totem, unless you think that it's actually his wedding ring, which is a totem which is another list that I might be doing later on, technically never stops spinning, implying that he's trapped in a dream to this very day. Number 9. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Few films have been as widely debated as Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. Its DNA can be found in other classics like Alien, Star Wars, Moon, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But whereas those films are attempting to tell fairly straightforward stories, 2001 is a much more complex affair. The film is loosely based around space exploration and the discovery of a large black monolith. But individual parts of 2001, particularly its psychedelic Star Child ending, are left open to interpretation. Very little is explained through the dialogue, and Kubrick himself refused to elaborate further. Is it a movie about evolution, war, the transcendence of alien life, post-humanism? Is it just a laser light show with apes and spooky computers? All of the above? None of the above? Who knows? And therein lies the beauty. Number 8. Triangle. Like a lot of films on this list, Triangle is about time loops and body duplication. It asks you what would happen if there were multiple yous. Would you attack them on instinct, try to converse with them and coexist, run and hide? Or, you know, do the sex thing with yourself? I mean, it's not weird. I mean, it's you. Is it weird? Is it weird? No. Jess and her friends are forced to answer this very question when their boat is overturned in the middle of a storm. Stranded with only one means of escape, they board a passing deserted ocean liner, whereupon they begin to be stalked and murdered by their own time loop doubles. A seemingly endless cycle comes into effect, and each attempt to break the chain seems to result in further complications. What makes Triangle so interesting is that at first it seems just like a run-of-the-mill horror movie about a scary boat. You really have no idea what you're getting yourself in for. And once the reality warping stuff starts to take place, it turns an otherwise humdrum slasher movie into something much, much smarter. Number 7. Eraserhead. David Lynch is a weird guy, but I kind of love him for it. And he started out as he meant to go on with his 1977 debut, Eraserhead. It's a brazenly confusing film that laughs in the face of regular storytelling conventions. In fact, it feels like an extended Tool music video because of its strange imagery and discordant plot. Eraserhead is a sexually charged film filled with provocative and unnerving imagery. Whether it's the strange lady in the radiator or Henry Spencer's alien sperm-like child. What is this thing? And the weirdest thing is that the whole film is accompanied by this consistent low level of noise that sets the viewer on edge. It's a difficult black and white monstrosity with the sole intention of making you feel uncomfortable and even trying to outrage you. Number 6. Memento. If Christopher Nolan is famous for 3 things, it's logic gaps, Hans Zimmer scores, and killer movie concepts. Memento is arguably still one of his best, with an elevator pitch that pretty much promises confusion from the get-go. Guy Pearce plays Leonard, a man who can't recall any recent memories, and this is proving to be a right nuisance because his wife got killed and he needs to find out who did it. It's one of those blink and you'll miss it movies where anything and everything could or could not be a clue. The conclusion isn't really necessarily important. What is important is the lengths at which the audience and Leonard will go to convince themselves that the story's protagonist is right, despite the fact that he's one of the most unreliable narrators imaginable. Number 5. Coherence. Okay, so this film starts out with guests arriving at a dinner party, and what follows is altogether quite boring, as people just seem to be talking about their daily lives. We learn about their past, their personalities, and some of the tensions currently plaguing their relationships, but it's altogether lacking in drama. But then we learn that a comet is screaming towards Earth, but is just gonna pass it, not actually hit it. Is there any drama in this? Oh wait, yes there is, because as the comet passes, the lights go out, leading two of the party guests to investigate a house further down the street which seems to have power. Upon returning, it's revealed that the house they were in has doppelgangers of exactly the same people at the party, and the guests are now caught in a series of branching alternate realities, at least until the comet passes. The entire purpose of the movie is to mess with your mind, making you question who is sitting across the table from whom, and how you would deal with a group of doubles if they were to come knocking on your door. Again, I would just do the sex, but that's just me. And me, with another me watching. Number 4, Donnie Darko. In other hands, Donnie Darko would have just been another movie about a depressed adolescent trying to navigate the tribulations of high school. In the hands of Richard Kelly and Jake Gyllenhaal, however, it's a haunting tale of involuntary time travel, creepy anthropomorphic rabbits, and ultimately, the futility of existence. It's safe to say that a lot of people feel a little lost by the time that Donnie Darko's credits roll round, but that feeling is arguably what Kelly and company intended for audiences to feel. In fact, a lot of information that proved essential in fully comprehending the film's ending was only released in the director's cut in 2004. Therefore, if you've only seen the original, you'd be left adrift on a mental island with only empty theories as company. It's a lot easier to digest with the extra content, but in a way it loses some of its magic because of it. Number 3, Primer. Movies about time travel tend to walk two distinct paths. They're either light-hearted romps through bygone or future time periods a la Back to the Future, or they're dark and gritty attempts to teach us lessons about the consequences of our actions. Primer is somehow neither and chooses to blaze its own confusing trail, one that's so hard to follow that you'll need a diagram to really piece together what's going on. Primer follows two engineers, Aaron and Abe, who accidentally discover time travel while working on extracurricular projects in Aaron's garage. Rather than going on wacky Bill and Ted-esque adventures, they wind up wreaking temporal havoc through performing even the simplest of tasks. It's a movie about the science behind time travel, one that's more interested in exploring the concept from a realist perspective. Nothing is dumbed down for the sake of entertainment, therefore Primer becomes a slightly drab, dour movie about the dangers and benefits of time loops and time travel body doubles. In motion, Primer is infinitely more baffling than it even sounds on paper, and refuses to ever hold the viewer's hand or guide them through the plot. In fact, repeat viewings and a paper pad at hand are the only way to get the most out of this film. Number 2, Lost Highway. Lost Highway is in effect another body double movie, but this one makes the previous entries on this list look like Freaky Friday. What starts out as an admittedly weird psychological thriller gets even stranger at the halfway mark. Up until that point, the viewer follows a man called Fred, who gets convicted of murdering his own wife. Naughty, naughty. When he's sent to jail, however, the prison guards discover that he's now a mechanic called Pete, with a completely different life and face. The two stories intertwine, contrast, and run parallel to one another, but they never really coexist. It's never really explained why Fred and Pete are the same, or how the series of events comes to be. It's designed to make you extrapolate meaning from what you're seeing, rather than making you understand the mechanics and logic behind it. Lost Highway is a tough watch. It's more of a mood piece, and through that it poses a lot more questions than it ultimately answers. And number 1, Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive splits people into two camps. It's either a cinematic masterpiece the likes of which will never be seen again and worthy of the title of best film of the 21st century, or it's an obtuse, pretentious toss-fest which sees actors rub themselves into a pompous fury. It's not a film to be got, but one that explores multiple themes and switches them up on the fly to disorientate its audience. There are so many theories and film analysis pieces pertaining to the meaning of Mulholland Drive that they're too numerous to list here. And as with any good auteur director, Lynch refused to address or even speculate on what could or could not be true. In the end, the movie feels more like a prolonged hypnosis or a late-night fever dream rather than anything resembling a Hollywood film, and will leave you yearning for something a lot more conventional when the day is done. Oh god, this is all too much for me. Maybe Danny will be able to calm my frayed nerves. That's better. Yes, Danny, yes, you are too old for this shit. You're welcome. And that's our list. Got any more movies that messed with your mind? Well, let me know about them in the comments section below. And why not head back to whatculture.com for more daily news and articles. As always, I've been Jules. You can follow me here on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, and I will speak to you soon.